always weird coming back to the show after a great episode because while I would like this episode to be as good if not better than the last one, I've been doing this long enough to know that probably won't be the case. I guess all I can do is hope that this episode will at least be good and not hold it to the standards of the last episode. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and talk about episode 12, Catching Some Rays. The episode opens with Chase and Sir Ivan telling Kendall that if she can find the location of the Silver Rangers, she can take the Plesiozord to help him, but Kendall says that while she's been trying, intergalactic communication is tricky. Inside the cafe, Tyler is trying to teach Koda how to use the new sink faucet, while Shelby's helping out a woman at the counter. Shenanigans ensue as Koda loses control of the faucet, but luckily the woman at the counter stops the water from spraying. The others then come in, with Kendall being surprised to see the woman, who turns out to be her grandmother, or G-Ma Betty. After introductions, G-Ma Betty shows Kendall a new giant lens for the museum that she found in a nearby cave, but while Kendall says the museum doesn't need any more artifacts, Koda recognizes it and asks the others to take him to the cave. When they get to the cave, Koda reveals that it's his home before telling the others about the cave paintings on the walls. One such cave painting is of Koda's grandfather, who the Blue Ranger says made rules for the tribe, one of them being to never go into a forbidden part of the cave. Seeing the rocks that block the path of the forbidden area, the Rangers encourage Koda to cross the line, with the caveman saying the rule was silly after nothing happens to him.
There's nothing here, Koda. Wait a second. It looks like this bone is blocking a door, maybe?
I wonder what's in there.
Maybe we shouldn't...
Too late, my lady.
Guys? What's happening?
Perhaps we should put it back.
Yeah.
Quickly.
Holy crap, did they just release Daishi? No, what comes out of the cave is a monster called Leisure, who was trapped by Koda's grandfather 100,000 years ago, so the Rangers engage in a fight to stop the monster. However, Leisure turns out to be a pretty good match for the Rangers and knocks them back before jumping into space and hitting Earth with her vacation beam. Though Koda and Kendall are able to escape, the other Rangers are hit with the beam, causing them to think they're on vacation, which Koda says caused his people to nearly starve since the beam made the tribe hunters refuse to hunt. Kendall asks Koda what his grandfather did to stop the monster, and Koda says he doesn't know, but that the lens the G-Ma Betty found is part of the solution. The two then cover themselves from the sun as they make their way back to the lab, where they start deciphering the cave paintings so they can figure out what to do. On the ship, Heckle yells at Leisure's twin brother Loafer for what his sister's doing, but after Heckle finds out the monsters are immune to the vacation beam, he hatches a plan to steal the energems from the affected Rangers. Overhearing this, Poisandra and Curio decide to steal the energems themselves, but that proves to be difficult since they just end up exhausted from all the activities the Rangers are doing. Back at the lab, Koda and Kendall test the apparatus they made for the lens based on the cave paintings, but the thing doesn't work, so they go to G-Ma Betty for help. Meanwhile, Fury and Loafer confront the Rangers.
What are you two doing here?
Fury! We were, wearing them out so you could get their energems!
Yeah!
That wasn't part of Heckle's plan!
Is this what you want, thou lumbering beast?
Is it an energem?
Those energems will be mine! Yeah!
Too slow! Thou jousting skills are quite unimpressive. Hello, down there! Did you see that? Down he goes! Get out of here!
Get him, Fury!
Cool.
This is absolutely ridiculous and I love it. Back at the cafe, G-Ma Betty and Kendall have a moment where G-Ma thanks Kendall for asking for help, which seems to suggest that this is what the episode is really about, before she agrees to help. G-Ma Betty tells the two Rangers that they need a secondary lens to focus the beam, and after she provides one from her glasses, the Rangers cure the people in the cafe, who will no doubt go outside and be affected by the vacation beam all over again. Kendall tells Koda to go find the others while she takes the lens into space with the Plesiozord, but Koda runs into Fury and Loafer before morphing to take on the monsters. The fight doesn't go well, with Koda not standing a chance against the two monsters, but the other Rangers show up and morph, only to run right past Koda and hula dance with Loafer. No, I haven't gone crazy, this is really happening. Meanwhile, Kendall goes up into space and has a pretty awesome fight in the Plesiocharge Megazord against Leisure, and once the monster's defeated, Kendall for some reason still uses the lens to shine sunlight on Earth, even though logically the vacation beam should stop now that Leisure's space dust, but whatever, the episode's almost over. With the Rangers now free from the spell, Fury makes a quick retreat before the other monsters also run, even though Loafer wants revenge for his sister. The Rangers catch up to the three monsters before taking on some Viveks, and during the fight, Curio and Poisandra make their retreat, saying the vacation has made the Rangers stronger. Once the Viveks are defeated, the Rangers make quick work of Loafer, and after the fight, Curio and Poisandra prepare to leave for their own vacation, but Heckle forces them to clean the ship instead while giving their Hawaii tickets to some Viveks. Back at the cave, Koda apologizes to his grandfather for breaking his rule before he and Tyler are called back to the lab, since the Rangers have once again gotten in contact with the Silver Ranger. Silver informs the Earth heroes that the Dark Energem has resurfaced, which Keeper says is bad because the Dark Energem was made from pure darkness after the creation of the original 10 Energems, and the episode ends with Silver asking for the information on the other Ranger Zords and Megazords, which Kendall reluctantly provides. This is a bad episode, but not for the reasons you might think. Let me start this off by saying that I've never been against Power Rangers for wanting to delve into silly and ridiculous plots. I mean, after all, this show is aimed at kids, so I can definitely see why this type of episode is appealing, especially as a filler episode, and I can therefore judge it based on its own merits. However, the problem with this episode is ironically the same problem that Love is in the Air had, which is, rather than go full cartoon with the absolute absurdity of this plot, the episode actually tries to be about something. The goal of this episode seems to be that you should always respect your elders and the wisdom they have, or something to that effect. Honestly, the whole message is kind of muddled since the episode doesn't put that much focus on it, and instead wants to show all the wacky hijinks the Rangers get into while under the influence of the vacation beam. Come to think of it, how was Koda's grandfather able to stop and capture Leisure to begin with? Based on this episode, the monster needs to jump into space to even launch her vacation beam, which Koda's tribe wouldn't even begin to know how to combat since they're, cavemen. So how exactly did they trap her? Did Keeper randomly show up and use his space wizard powers to seal up Leisure and just didn't tell the Rangers because they didn't ask? The point is, the show needs to explain these things if it wants me to take this episode seriously. The only part of this episode that I can take completely seriously, though, is the end, which will be really awkward if the Silver Ranger doesn't actually turn out to be evil. I mean, I can see the guy being more on the level if he asks for the Rangers to send their Zords, or even themselves, since there's 9 of them, and sending Prince Philip and James into space is a better way to write them out if we're not going to use them. But no, the Silver Ranger asks for the Zord information, which doesn't even seem like it would be useful without the Zords themselves, but the Rangers give it to him anyway, despite how potentially bad that idea is. Overall, this is the first true-to-form bad episode since the show has come back, and while I did enjoy the more fun bits of this episode, since it has to share screen time with a theme that feels completely separate, it makes the whole thing come off as an unfocused mess that you can skip, as long as you know that the Rangers might have screwed themselves by giving out their info to the, quote, Silver Ranger. I'm Nick, aka Iron Man 1993, and may the power protect you.